Hello, 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 and welcome to another segment of Monday Motivational Moments with me, your girl, Shay Samuels. As always, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for allowing yourselves to just take part in the next 15 minutes and just being inspired. That means so much to me, and it is a blessing as well. So I will never start a segment off without saying thank you. Thank you so much. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get into this message. This message was so on time. A few weeks ago, I was going to do this message, but I held on to it and I wasn't sure why. But it goes back to messages that I've said in the past. Just because God gives it to you does not mean that you need to take flight almost immediately. Amen. And so, had I done this message would not be as powerful as it's going to be today. So, I want you guys to just stay tuned. Keep tuning in. Listen to the end because there's a challenge right at the end of this and it will help you. It will impact your lives heavily. Amen. So let's go ahead and get into this message. About a few weeks ago, I watched a little documentary, and this documentary, it was kind of funny because it was about alligators, and it was about a family who actually took in alligators and as babies at that. And so this family would nurture these alligators, kind of raise them in the home with children as well. And I thought as they were playing with the alligator in their hands, on their shoulders, the kids were allowed to kind of put their fingers around their mouths. And I was thinking at the time how cute things are when it's small. Amen. I was just thinking how cute things are when it's small. I started thinking about kittens. When my daughter first brought her cat home, it was a baby kitten, probably about 9 weeks or so. And the cat was so small and it fit in the palm of our hands. And sometimes it would crawl up here in my neck and it would sit there, but it was like really, really cute. And if she tries to do that now, I don't like it because she's so big. Amen. Stay with me. Stay with me. Puppies are the same way. You bring a puppy home and the kids are like, oh my God, the puppy's so cute. And then when the puppy grows up, nobody wants to take care of it because the little bitty droplets of whatever it used to let out are no longer little bitty. They're big. Amen. And so nobody wants to handle it. And so in the beginning of this message a few weeks ago, I would have talked about relationships. And so I'm still going to do that, but I want to get to the meat of what I'm talking about today. In relationships, we're the same way. We take on relationships and we see the problems up front. We see the challenges up front. We see them as little bitty cute problems. Maybe she didn't cook when you met her, and that was kind of cute because you always had cookers in the house, but going out is always fun until you start thinking about the money you got to put out 5 years later and how much you've been putting out all that time. Maybe the person had an attitude, but it's okay that they get a little jealous every now and then. That's okay until you're 5 or 10 years into the marriage and you realize that this wasn't a phase. This is who this person is. Maybe they talk to you a certain type of way. I don't know. But whatever was cute in the beginning becomes a big detriment to your lives in the long run. Amen. And so this is what I was thinking about with this alligator. What happens when this alligator gets bigger? The alligator, one, has to go in its natural habitat. It cannot live in the house, of course, as big as they get, as long as they get, and of course, who they are as animals, they are designed to possibly kill. Amen. And so, had the family kept the alligators in the house, what would happen? Furniture would be torn up. Family members probably would have been bitten. Although they have loved on this thing for so long, it has to naturally go into its own design. And so, I thought about that with our problems and our challenges. They may start off small. Maybe you had a gambling problem and it started off small. You probably lost $5 or $10 at one point. But what happens when you feed the habit? It gets bigger. Maybe you weren't a person who actually paid your bills on time. It started off as small. You robbed Peter to pay Paul and it worked. But things change, times change. And when you look at where you are now, you realize that you put yourself in grave danger. And now you're scraping, you're panicking, life changes, headaches, health issues. All of this stuff comes off from small problems. Amen. So you guys get me where I'm going with that. And I pray that that segment of it, that section of this segment blessed you. But let's talk about where we are today. Let's talk about COVID-19. Y'all, I told you when this message was going to come out a week ago, it was all about relationship, but I held on to it. I held on to it and I didn't understand why. COVID-19, the virus. Amen. COVID-19 probably started off really small in a section of the world, which we know is China, in a section of the world that nobody even knew that this was going on. Amen. The government knew it was going on. China knew that it was going on. But here we were just kind of living our everyday lives. And what was once small grew into something so big overnight and became what? Detrimental to our lives. It became detrimental to our lives. Lives have changed over the last couple of weeks due to COVID-19 virus, the coronavirus. Lives have changed. There are some people who have lost lives. There are some people who are now in isolation. There are some people in quarantine. There have been curfews put in place right now at this very moment, shelter in places around the world. But this has changed and impact our lives heavily. It started off small and it took off and it ended up being big. Now I'm going to bring it back to challenging you because this is definitely something that we need to take heed to. COVID-19, the virus or coronavirus, yes, this thing probably started off really, really small in an isolated area, and it ended up taking off and it ended up changing our lives forever. Just like anything else that we would take on in our lives, just like the challenges that we have not overcome. It probably started off small, but what have you done? What could the government have done differently? What could China have done differently? What could the people who knew about this in the beginning had done differently so that we weren't impacted in this way? Stay with me because I'm going somewhere with this. But what could they have done to make sure that we as a globally, we as the world, we were impacted differently? What could they have done? And guess what? The people I'm talking to right now, you, and you, there are things that you probably think they could have done differently. So I'm going to challenge you to turn that thing around and start looking at the things that started off small with you. The things in your life that started off small, the things that were cute in the beginning, and start reevaluating what was so cute about it. And think about how much you have fed this thing. Think of how long you've allowed it to linger around. Think about the things that could have happened in between one part of your life to another part of your life and why you got where you are. It's not a God thing. These aren't God's promises to you. Amen. So what could you have done differently? And what can you do differently now to change the dynamic of that thing that once was small and cute, now being so detrimental in your life? Amen. When I got this message, it really, really blessed me. I promise you guys, it blessed me. I tell you all the time, I get these messages. Either I go through it before you do, or I'm experiencing it and I will, or experienced it or going to experience it. Amen. And so in this case, I started thinking about how what we see is very small can turn into something so detrimental. So what's your challenge today? Your challenge is to take inventory. Use COVID-19 and what could have happened and what should have happened and what you would have done and apply it to every little cute thing that you held on to in the beginning. What did you feed it? Just like the family with the alligators. They fed the alligator as if it was their family. In this documentary, we watched this alligator grow, and guess what had to happen? Eventually, they had to put it in its natural habitat because it could not live there. Whatever it is, I want you to say to yourself, it just cannot live here. It can't live here. I'm not saying that you have to throw everything out, but there are certain things, unlike the alligator, they had to put that thing out. They had to put that thing out. But unlike the alligator, there are certain things that you can start looking at in your life, and you can start saying, you know what, that did start off cute, but I've fed this thing too much. And now it's grown and it's outgrown this space, whatever it is. If it's your finances, even if it's sickness, Even if it's sickness, if you've settled on, I have a common cold. All right, let's just talk about the COVID-19. They've given you the differences between the common cold and the coronavirus. And it comes in stages. So it says, if you're feeling like you can't breathe, that's not the common cold, because the symptoms of the COVID-19 is that you are going to have shortness of breath. And so go from a common cold. If you have a common cold and you know for a fact that COVID-19 exists, don't sit home like it's just the common cold. But the CDC gives you everything needed to know that this possibly is COVID-19. So don't sit there with a small health issue just thinking, oh, it's small, and it turns out to be something really big. Amen. Financially, don't look at, well, you know what? The cable bill or the electric bill, whatever it is, I don't care if it's a student loan. It started off small. Well, I'm in school. Hey, so what? I got that $15,000 loan. It's cute in the beginning, but when you become an adult and you are trying to establish your credit and you're trying to buy homes, do you know that thing will impact you? It will affect you. Amen. So yeah, it's cute when you're 19 to have that student loan and brag about the student loan because you're in school. But what happens when you become older and you need to start building or need established credit to build on what you're trying to do as an adult? Amen. What about the relationships? What about the things that you've identified with in the beginning and you've tried to let it go? In fact, you did let it go, because 25 years later, you're still dealing with it and you have fed this thing. You've told it it's okay. I'm not telling you to sidebar the relationship. What I'm saying is it's time. It is time to stop feeding that thing. It's no longer cute. It's no longer cute, especially as older people. Especially, I'm not claiming that, especially as older people, when you start thinking about the things that you have literally taken as cute and you've watched it become detrimental to your lives. Amen. So what is your challenge? I'm going to say it again. I want you to start looking at those little cutesy, warm and fuzzy things that you used to accept from people, from work, finances, even in your health. It's important. It is important. Somebody's sitting there right now thinking, well, this is just a common cough. And I'm not even emphasizing the COVID-19 at this point, but there are things that you've been dealing with that have been small for a while, and not putting this on anybody, but you don't know what it is. So use wisdom and stop looking at it as a small thing and start learning about your health and getting better Amen. So I pray that this has been an impact on you. I pray that it blessed you and that you actually looked at it from a practical standpoint. There are some scriptures that I'm going to share with you right now. John 16:33 says, I have said these things to you that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulations, but take heart. I overcome the world. That's John 16:33. I'll read it again. I have said these things to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulations, but take heart. I overcome the world. Amen. Have peace in that. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him. Matthew 10:16 says, behold, I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Oh my God. Listen, there's so many scriptures on peace. There's so many scriptures on tribulation, and there's so many scriptures on trouble in the Bible. I want you guys to study that. Was John 16:33, Proverbs 3:5-6, and Matthew 10:16. That's my time with you guys. I pray that you will begin to look at those little things that really could add up to a big detrimental impact in your lives and start to change those things today, right now. That is your challenge. I love you guys, and I thank you for spending this 15 minutes with me. You have just been motivated by your girl, Shay Samuels, and I'm out.